Lesson 3.3, we are going to be talking about two-digit dividends. And so actually, let's break down what those words are, right? So a dividend is the number that is being divided. That's a very important kind of thing to break to be able to identify the difference between dividend. Where's our lost my page, right? So a dividend is a number that is being divided. We have to be able to separate dividend with divisor in which word we're talking about and what it relates to within our division problem. A divisor tells how many groups. Another way of saying this is simply saying your divisor is what is doing the dividing, right? Divisor is what is doing the dividing. And a way to make this connection as well is to say, well, if you run, right, then you are a runner, right? If you swim, you're a swimmer. And if you play basketball, well, of course, then you're just a baller, right? And so if you are a divisor, you're dividing. You're the one doing the dividing, right? So the result of this then is saying the answer to a division problem is called the quotient, right? And that's a very important word to know to be able to separate as we answer things. The quotient is the answer to a division problem. So let's look at our first example here. So Eli donates his 5 toys to different charities. He has a total of 75 toys to donate. Eli donates the same number of toys to each charity. How many toys does each charity receive? So we're going to let T represent the total number of toys in each charity that each receives, right? So we would say this as 75 divided by 5 equals T. And remember, T is that variable, and T, that means toys. When we divide, we're first going to say, well, 75 divided by 5. The 75 is in the box, right? So the dividend is inside the box, and then we have our divisor outside of it. 75 divided by 5. The 5 is doing the dividing. First step is I need to look at just the 7, right? So I'm just looking at the 7 here and saying, how many times does 5 go into 7? Well, it can only go in there once, because if it goes in there twice, 5 times 2 is 10. 10 is greater than 7, and so it is too much. It won't go in. So now I multiply. So I divide 7 by 5 first. It goes in there once. Now I am multiplying my 5 and my 1. 5 times 1 is 5. So this is where this 5, oh, not negative 5. I just want to identify that this is the 5 here. Now I subtract. A way to keep your order of steps is to say, slide over just a little bit, and say divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, and then we repeat, right? So again, our order is divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, and then I am repeating, right? You might also think of this as a fact or a division family-esque kind of thing. So we have our dad, mom, sister, brother, and its dog named Rover, right? So however you remember your order, divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, repeat. That is our long division steps. So now 7 minus 5. 7 minus 5 is 2. Now I bring down. Remember our order? Divide, multiply, subtract. I just subtracted. Now I bring down my 5, right? I bring down my 5 here. Now I am looking at 25 as a whole number. If it helps to bring down your division and look at this as saying 5 goes into 25, that's fine. But 25 divided by 5, 5 goes into 25 5 times. 5 times 5 is 25. And so I just multiplied, right? I just did my multiplication step. Now I subtract, and I get 0. I don't have anything remaining, and so my problem is done. So the model shows that 5 groups of 15, right? If I have 15, there's 10 in this group, and then I have 5 ones. 10 and 5 together gives me 15. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups. 15 times 5, 5 and 5 is 25. 5 down and carry our 2. 5 and 1 is 5 plus 2 is 7. And we get back to our original problem, or our original dividend. And so 75 divided by 5 is 15. Each charity receives 15 toys. And this way of checking, because remember, division is the opposite of multiplication, right? That's an excellent way to check your work. Please check your work when you divide. And to check it, the easy way is to simply multiply your quotient by your divisor. Now, not all problems come out evenly like that, where we get 0 as our remainder after we subtract. So a remainder is the number or part left after you divide. So we're going to use R, a capital R, as a remainder. So let's use our next example of Caleb. Now Caleb is putting his baseball cards in an album. He has 57 cards and can put 4 cards on each page. How many full pages will Caleb have? Will there be any cards left, right? So this is going to be what part of our problem? What does this mean? Well, this is going to be our remainder, if there is anything left, right? That's to understand what that means. So 57 divided by 4. Again, our steps: divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, and we repeat. So 57 is our dividend, right? So that's what goes inside the box. Our divisor is 4. I need to look at this and say, well, 4 goes into just 5, right? Just go one digit at a time. 4 goes into 5 once, because 4 times 2 is 8, and 8 is more than 5. So I can only go in there once. 4 times 1 is 4. Now I multiply 4 times 1, and I get 4. I'm just looking at this subtraction part, 5 minus 4, right? And I end up with 1. 5 minus 4 is 1. I just did my subtraction part. Now I need to bring down. So I bring down my 7. Get into a habit of drawing that arrow down. It helps keep things lined up, but it helps organize yourself. Now I'm looking at 4 goes into 17. Again, if it helps to draw your box down here, that's totally on you if that helps, but you're putting 4 into the entire number 17. 4 goes into 17 4 times, because 4 times 3 is, 4 times 3 is 12, right? I can go closer, right? If we get a number smaller than that, try to go again. So 4 times 4 is 16. If I try to go one more and say, well, 4 times 5, well, that's 20, and that's too much. I go over 17, so I need to stop at 4. So 4 and 4 is 16. I just multiplied. I now subtract. 17 minus 6 is 1. So this 1, I don't have anything left over here. There's nothing to add, right? There's nothing in our dividend to bring down. So if there's nothing left to bring down, I'm done. I have a remainder then of 1. So there will be how many full pages? Well, there will be 14 full pages, right? And there's 1 card left over. So if the question says, how many pages? Will he need? Well, think about this. If we can put 4 cards on each page, that's 14 full pages. If he has 1 card left over, he will need to have a 15th page to simply put this 1 card in his binder, in his album, right? So let's look at some guided practice on this. 65 divided by 5, right? So I first look at this and say 5 goes just into 6 once. 5 times 1 is 5, right? If we need to rewrite our steps, divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, and then we repeat, right? So 5 goes into 6 once. That's why we put our 1 above the 6. 5 times 1 is 5. We already have that part here. They did that for us. Now I am at my subtraction part. 6 minus 5 is 1. Now we bring down. Draw your arrow here, right? Bring down your 5. And I'm looking at 5 goes into this entire 15, right? 5 goes into 15 3 times, right? 3 times 5 is 15. So I put my 15 below. I now subtract, and I end up with 0. So 65 divided by 5, the quotient is 13, right? So let's look at 45 divided by 3. Our first step is to say, well, 3 goes into just the 4 once, right? 3 times 1 is 3 times 1 is 3. So I put my 3 here. I was getting ahead of myself. 4 minus 3 is 1. Now I bring down my 5, draw the arrow there, right? 15. Now I look at this and say, well, 15 divided by 3, right? And that 3 that I'm writing in here is because that is our divisor. 15 divided by 3, 3 goes into 15 5 times. They already put that up there for us, right? And 3 times 5 is 15. I subtract, and I get 0. So 45 divided by 3 is 15. And I can always go back and check my work. 15 times 3. We just did our multiplication and saying, well, 3 and 5 is 15. 5 down, carry our 1. 3 and 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. And I end back up with our dividend, right? The number that's on the inside. If I go back and check my previous one, 65 divided by 5, well, 13 times 5, I can check it. 3 and 5 is 15. 5 down, carry my 1. 5 and 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6. And that 65, there you go, is back at our dividend. Let's do some more practice here. 42 divided by 3. Right, so I look at this, again, if we need to write our steps, divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, and we repeat, right? So 3 goes into 4 once. 1 times 3 is 3. Now I look at just the subtraction part of 4 minus 3, and I end up with 1, right? Now I bring down, I look at this saying 3 goes into 12, right? If you have to write this down here, go for it. That's fine, but you should be able to start looking at your divisor the whole problem through. 3 goes into 12 4 times because 3 times 4 is 12. Let's write a 4 a little neater. So 3 times 4 is 12. 12 minus 12 is 0. So our quotient is 14, this whole number up top. Number 4, 68 divided by 4. 4 goes into 6 once. I multiply 4 times 1, I get 4. I say 6 minus 4, and I get 2. Now I bring down my 8. I look at this and say 28 divided by 4, right? Well, 4 times 7, and they already put our 7 up here, is 28. So 7 and 4, 28. I subtract, I get 0. So my final answer is 17. Now this next one, you should be able to already identify. We're going to have a remainder here, but 2 goes into 3 only once. 2 times 1 is 2. Again, I'm just looking at 3 minus 2 when I subtract, and I get 1. I bring down my 3, and I look at this saying 2 goes into 13. Well, 2 times 5 is 10. Can I get closer to 13? Yeah. 2 times 6 is 12. I can't go any closer or any more because if I do, I'll be over 13, right? Get as close as you can without going over. 2 goes into 13 6 times. 2 times 6 is 12. I subtract 13 minus 12, and I end up with 1. That 1 then becomes my remainder, right? So we would say this as 16 remainder 1 as my answer here. We'll continue doing more practice, but hopefully this helps. Let me know if you have any questions.